guys, welcome to Mindful-ish,
Ish,
episode 2.
where things will get a little crazy, but they'll always be mindful as well.
Yes. Today, guys, we have a very heavy topic.
Yes, so keep in mind if you have any past trauma, it may be a little bit triggering for you. We're always going to recommend that you just take some time, feel free to pause the video, take some time to yourself, ground yourself, do some breathing exercises. We always will recommend meditation as well. There are quite a few videos on YouTube that you can look up. But we're going to go ahead and do something a little different to get this episode started.
Yes. So, if we can take like 30 seconds just to center ourselves and ground ourselves before we dive deep into this conversation. So pause the video. We're going to light some Palo Santo and clear the space and energy. And just so you guys can get regulated for our topic today.
Yes, you know, my bestie's always about that holistic vibe. So I'm just following her lead. And you should do so too. She never steered me wrong in this past decade. So let's go ahead and get started with a little bit of refocusing.
Yes, guys. Okay. All right.
Okay. So, today's topic, the reason why we say it's a little deep is because what we find is that parenting today is completely opposite of parenting from before, right? So, we're in our 30s, so we got a little bit of the parenting of you are supposed to be seen and not heard vibe, right?
A lot of it.
But as we navigate social media, I know you guys are coming across what they're calling gentle parenting, right? And so there's a lot of mixed reviews, especially from Black parents that are like, girl, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to whoop you.
Yes.
You're going to get all your stuff taken away.
Yes.
And that's not the vibe we're going with. So we want to talk about a little bit about that and how that type of vibe from back in the day can bring up a lot of trauma over the time. So we want to get started and I guess just talking to each other too about like how we parent. We've been around each other for quite some time to see how we parent. So like, what do you feel about this new gentle versus permissive versus I'm gonna whoop you versus I'm gonna snatch you by your hair parenting?
I think, like you said, it's been a new wave of the gentle parenting. So, Bestie had to remind me because I'm like, gentle parenting, like, is that like catering them? It's okay, don't do that. But Bestie reminded me that I actually gentle parent. So, thinking of it, gentle parenting is when, I think you looked up the definition, so if we need to, we'll give you guys the exact definition. But gentle parenting is where you parent in a sense without disrespecting your child. So getting on their level and parenting them where you don't shame them in a way.
Yeah.
I think our main topic today is shame.
Yeah. And what people don't realize is they automatically hear gentle and they hear, oh, your kid's going to walk all over you. Your kid is going to disrespect you. Your kid's going to beat you up, beat your ass eventually. And that's definitely not the case. That would be more in the lines of permissive parenting, right? And so with permissive parenting, there's no boundaries whatsoever. Your kid does what they want, when they want, to who they want, and there's no repercussions, right? But with gentle parenting, you're kind of giving your kid a voice. They get a chance to ask questions more. They get a chance to make decisions. And I think that that's important that we look at that because kids are going to need to learn how to be independent and make decisions on their own, right? And so my thing as it goes back to shame, like you said, is the way that parenting was before. Like, how do you feel about cursing at your kids? I think that's a huge thing that can come across shameful.
Absolutely. I don't cuss at my kid. I don't even think that any of my kids have heard me say a cuss word. But I know sometimes my partner will cuss you know, in a sense of we have different parenting styles. So he's more assertive, he's more firm, and I'm more like gentle, which I think it's sometimes good to have both sides of it, right?
Right.
But it's also good to recognize the kind of kid you have. And some kids may not do well with the cursing, right? Some
Right.
kids may need a more gentle approach. And I think it depends on the kid and their personality and if they're, you know, more sensitive or less sensitive.
Right. And you bring up a good topic because I think with the assertive parenting too, I think there's also different levels. So like cursing at your kids in the sense of like clean your damn room or things like that is different than a parent cursing and saying you're a fucking idiot or you're stupid and degrading your kids by calling them names that you would call someone essentially off the street or someone you didn't know or someone you had little to no respect for. I think that's the difference too, because in social media these days, our kids are going to hear curse words all the time. TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat. And so I think it's important to differentiate that too. And you know, me, of course, I know your partner and I know that assertive parenting is still in his own way correct. Like it doesn't dim the kid's light in any way. Because my partner is like that too, where she is a little bit more assertive than me. And sometimes I am a little bit more quiet. You know, sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like arguing with these kids. Do whatever you want to do. And that sometimes can come off permissive. But I think it's good to have balance. Like she's really good at reeling them back in and making sure that they're respecting me without shutting them up or making them feel like they're less than.
Yes, absolutely.
So how do you feel today? Like it seems like our kids today ask a lot of questions, right?
Yes.
And back in the day, my mom would have been livid.
Just do what I said.
Right.
You don't need to
because
know
I
why.
said so. That was the thing. It was always because I said so. But what'd you say? I forgot already. So how do you feel or how do you handle parenting when your kids are asking questions?
That one, like you said, we grew up in the era, don't ask, just do, right? And I think that sets up a kid for failure in a way, right? Because thinking that you can't ask questions when you genuinely feel like you didn't do something wrong, right? And in a world where you know, society already portrays us to be a certain way, I think it's good for us to ask questions. So I think trying to balance that, right? If it's coming from a genuine place of asking, but what did I do, right? What did I do to get in trouble? I know my youngest son he'll ask me that all the time. But what did I do to get in trouble, right? So it's out of genuine curiosity. And I think that is very good, and it starts a way so that you can explain, well, you did this, and I don't like how, you know, you did this, and I don't like how it affected the other person, right? So that they can really see, because just saying because I said so is not teaching them a lesson and not explaining what they did wrong.
Right. And a good example of that, like just in case you guys are curious too, is like telling your kids to eat all of their food or eat their vegetables or clean their room. If a child is genuinely asking, well, why do I need to do X, Y, and Z? There's nothing wrong with just taking another additional 20 seconds to say, because eating your vegetables will make you strong. It's good for your health. Or cleaning your room, because I work really hard to make sure we have a roof over our head. So I would love it if you would respect me enough to clean your room and take care of your belongings and treat them with respect.
Yes.
And I think there's a difference between them asking really just to like know versus being like, well, why do I have to clean my room? And I think oftentimes parents sometimes lack the patience needed to differentiate between the two. There's a way to ask something in a disrespectful way and a way to ask something out of curiosity. And honestly, kids are really curious humans. At that age, it's a lot of the time it's innocent. They don't have the ability to think that far ahead, to be petty or malicious at young ages. And so I think it's important to kind of remember who your audience is when you're kind of telling them what to do and parenting them a certain way.
Yeah, and I think like if you like you using the room example, explaining, well, I work really hard to put a roof over our heads, and I want your room to be clean. I want you to take pride in your things. Would motivate them to keep their room clean versus because I said clean it, right? That's not going to motivate them to clean the room.
Right.
It's going to create animosity and tension behind it. So it now becomes a chore that they now hate.
Right. And I've noticed too when I shift my perspective or I change things around and I explain more, especially to my youngest child, why I do certain things because she loves me so much. She doesn't want me to be upset or to be unhappy. So then now she wants to work extra hard. So even to the point where she's now making her bed every morning before school. And I want to fuss at her because I'm like, girl, we got to get out of the house. I got to get back to work. I got these clients to work with. But then I can't help but to feel joy in my heart because I'm like, dang, girl, I don't even make my bed. And you over here making your bed outshining me. Like, hold up. Who is this? Yes, you could get that little boo-boo come Christmas time, girl, because you is killing it. And then my son, he's like, I'm not making my bed because I just got to get back in it. So I'm working on him. But at the same time, it's innocent because he truly doesn't see the importance of cleaning his room before he goes to school because in his head, you can hear the innocent answer of, why would people make up their bed just to get back in it at the end of the day? He's right. Again. But it do feel good to get in that fresh bed that's made and you pull the covers back with the AC on and the air. Well, if you're in Arizona, you definitely need the AC on. For sure. And the fan going, it's different. But, like, do you notice a difference when you kind of do the same thing and ask questions?
Yeah, absolutely. And a very inquisitive child. He wants to know. His brain is always going. So, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, my godson, he needs to know the when, the where, the why, the who, what time.
The what again, the why again.
Moving along to the topic of shame. I'm finding when I'm meeting with clients, I'm hearing a lot about how their parents talk to them really have impacted their self-esteem, their motivation, their reason to live. I'm getting a lot of suicidal ideation in clients, a lot of self-harm in clients, and when I try to take it back to what happened and where they started to feel that way, I'm finding a lot of it has to do with how they were spoken to as children, which is sad.
It is. And I think we have this discussion of oftentimes, right, the bullying that comes with parenting sometimes and not realizing the effect it has on our children.
Yeah. I think, like, sometimes parents don't understand the way that you talk to your children, such as, like, I'm going to be a little bit vulgar when I say some of these things because these are real life things and situations that happen to people. But for instance, with the color of people's skin, like to say, shut up with your black ass, or your hair is so unmanageable, and take out your frustrations on your kid, that truly has a lasting effect. Your kids hear these words first from you. And so if they start to hear the way that you think about them when you are supposed to love your children unconditionally, how do you expect them to feel the world will view them as well? And that's where that parenting without shame comes from, is you can get your point across without putting your children down. Do not tell your children that they will never amount to anything. Do not tell your children that they're stupid. You push and encourage your children to be the best versions of themselves because that is what you are here for. They did not ask to be here. I mean, that is just a topic that irritates my soul completely when you talk to your children in that way.
Do you think that sometimes it's generational?
Oh, most definitely. I found that, like, for instance, with, like, many clients across the board, I'm finding that we're getting to the point where we're realizing that their parents are doing the best that they can because that is all that they know.
Yeah.
Not an excuse by any means, because I do, like, truly believe in, like, healing when you have children and going with the times. But they think it's acceptable, and I think it's genuine. I think parents of today's time, well, for our generation, our parents, I think they wholeheartedly felt like they were doing the right thing.
Yeah, and with that, I like to tell my clients because a lot of people in general don't know how their parents were raised. So I ask all the time, do you know what it was like for your mom at the age of 3? Right? Do you know what it was like for your dad at the age of 3? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what they went through? Do you know what their home life was like? And I think that gives a genuine perspective of, oh, they're just doing the best that they know.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
So I think this conversation is not to shame, right? But to invite um, us parents into thinking about our parenting and what we can do better, because we can always learn.
Yeah. And I know that a lot of people don't know this, but you can oftentimes find a lot of free parenting classes out there, a lot of free therapy support groups, such as NAMI, which is the National Association of Mental Illness. There are plenty of groups where you can find other people that may have been going through the same thing that you went through. If you are hearing from your child that's an adult now that you really impacted them in such a way that has caused them to have a low self-esteem, accept the bare minimum from people who are supposed to love them, please take time to seek out further help and mend those relationships now, because healing comes at every single age. So if you really reach out and utilize the resources that you have, it's never too late to help that inner child and your adult child heal.
And with that, I have to spew the spiritual part of it, right? So sometimes when we have that unresolved trauma, we hold it in our bodies, and that is often what creates trouble, like with our heart, right? Because your heart is out of balance because you hold so much grief and disappointment in there, right? So a lot of times we don't realize that us not working through our trauma is what's making us sick, right?
Yeah.
Chronic illnesses, even cancer, right? A lot of times cancer comes from that deep grief and hurt and pain that we don't work out. So not only, like you said, working it out, healing, but healing is so important on many, many, many layers, right? Not just that outer layer, but the inner layer where we first hold the trauma, right? Where the trauma first happens before we even realize that we were traumatized and affected.
Yeah. So, I mean, what would you suggest? I know I gave like the group, and I'm not well versed in the whole holistic spiritual world. What would you suggest that someone seek out if they want to go the holistic route? Like,
in combination with therapy, right? Because therapy is always useful for trauma, but in combination with therapy, I would say spiritual practices such as Reiki, which is a form of energy healing, and also like sound baths, anything that can really keep you grounded or get you grounded. So any like mindfulness, even if you can just take 5 minutes and do a simple meditation where you just sit there and be present with yourself, right? Just sit there and try to not so think about like all of the thoughts that you have, but try to really sit there in peace, which is very difficult, right, for beginners. But the more you work at it, the more you do it, the easier it would get. And that really helps regulation, that really helps grounding.
Yeah. And if you guys are interested in mindfulness, I know for me, I mentioned in the first episode that it's not really my thing, but if you are interested in learning more about like where the best meditations come from, or where you can, or interested in learning more too about sound baths, I have been interested in sound baths, so she is like kind of reeling me in when it comes to that aspect of things. But if you are genuinely interested, please make sure you comment below too, so we can provide as many resources as we can. We will always try to provide you with free resources too, because we do know that sometimes times can be difficult. But if there are recommendations that you would like in your area, we will definitely do our research to be able to provide those for you.
And I forgot to say, but so even massages are helpful.
oh, now I can't get with a good
Those
massage.
are even helpful, and that helps regulate and balance you as well.
I think I might tell my partner I'm feeling a little stressed, so she can give me a massage. Pay for it.
Yeah,
exactly. I think it's due. So just touching base on that too, I was realizing before that a lot of parents of our parents are starting to recognize apologizing more. What is your take on forgiveness, so to speak? Like, do you feel like forgiveness is more for the person doing the forgiveness or for the person that has done wrong?
I think it's definitely for the person that's been harmed, right? Because a lot of times we want to forgive to move on for ourselves, right? Because oftentimes people don't get apologies. So that's where that forgiveness for yourself really comes from, wanting to move on from that place that you were in. So I think it's about recognizing that, okay, I need this forgiveness for myself in a way so that I can move on. Because oftentimes, right, the wrongdoers don't realize that they're doing wrong.
Right.
They don't realize the impact that they have on someone. They don't realize the hurt that they have caused someone, or they may not even care, right? So it's not up to the other person to say, I'm sorry, but it's up to the person that was harmed to say, I'm going to try to work on some forgiveness, right? And that we know as therapists that doesn't happen immediately. It takes work, but I think the work is mainly for yourself.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. What do you think about accountability, like on both ends, as far as like parenting goes, as part of like that process? I know growing up, and not necessarily with me personally, but I've noticed with other clients, parents don't really like to apologize. They feel as though because they are the parent, they're right, regardless of if A connects to B, B connects to C, and it's just really apparent that they are wrong, they will still hold on to that pridefulness and not apologize. Do you think it makes them less of a parent if they apologize, or like, what do you think it is?
I think it goes back to what you were saying in the beginning, because I said so, right? So not wanting to be seen as being wrong, right? Wanting to be seen as the strong person. But I also think that that's a cultural thing. I think if you look at it culturally, right, it's a way that our culture is used to being the bad person, right? So you're going to stand firm in your home and not be that bad person. Well, I didn't do anything wrong, right? I didn't, what did I do? You're my child. You need to listen, kind of thing. So I think if we look at it culturally, generationally, it tells us a different story about parents not wanting to apologize to their children.
Yeah. And I think that we're all human beings and we all make mistakes. And literally saying, I apologize is 2 words, right? It does not make you give in. It doesn't do anything negative as a parent to just say, I apologize. I don't know how many times I've said I apologize to my children, and it's made a huge difference. Because at the end of the day, they're humans who deserve common decency, and that is just what I have to do in order to make them feel seen and to feel heard. And so I'm going to apologize all day if I truly am wrong and I make a mistake.
And with that, I think apologizing is a learned behavior. So if you don't hear your parents apologize or anyone apologize, you learn to not apologize, right? So it becomes a learned behavior. And I have a story where I had to apologize to my son because I overreacted in a situation where I felt I was a little too harsh with my yelling. So I said, hey, I'm really sorry about yelling so loud at you this morning, because I realized that I was a little bit too rough or too harsh. He said, it's okay, mommy.
Yeah. And you realize too, it's actually such a good feeling to apologize to your kids. And and then to be like, it's okay, I still love you.
Mm-hmm.
To let you know truly how innocent children truly are. And it feels so good to just know that at the end of the day, our kids feel safe in our arms, and that's where they should feel the safest. They shouldn't feel like they're in competition with us, that we don't love them, that we don't like them, and that we're their first bullies, because I'm going to stand 10 toes down for my kids, and they never have to feel like I'm a person that they also have to fight with.
Absolutely. And they learn, in a sense, how to apologize. Like my son always says, Mom, I'm sorry, or I'm sorry I did that, or I'm sorry about that. He now knows how to apologize.
Right. So in turn, we're creating better humans by teaching them common decency and empathy.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be our key word for the week, because it seems like the word empathy has been said to be a little bit of a negative in recent news. So we're going to go with the word of empathy, of being empathetic even to your children. Please be empathetic to your children, because at the end of the day, we're going to see some of these kids when they get older. We're going to work with them. We're going to treat them. And quite frankly, it's becoming more sad to see how many children felt like they were hated by their parents, that their parents are jealous of them, that their parents aren't happy with them, and they just didn't feel connected. And that's just a very sad story to have to kind of work through, and a lot of trauma that's built up.
What do you think, and this probably will end up being another topic, but what do you think about the mother-daughter relationship and the...
I think that's a hard one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's definitely a topic we'll have to get into, because that mother-daughter relationship can be both rewarding and both toxic at the same time if a mom does not know how to allow their daughter to live for themselves versus living in the way that they want them to.
And that is huge.
Yeah.
I think that the perfectionism, the control is so big in our community. And yeah, I think you hit it right on the nail.
Yeah.
But I'm very big on generations, and
yeah,
it's because that's how our culture has had to be, right? In times where it was just us, right? And you wanted your daughters to grow up a certain way and not embarrass the family or not shame the family, right?
Yeah.
So most of it is, what would the word be? Like a survival skill. Like a survival skill.
Or wanting them to be better than you were, which puts extra and added pressure on your daughter, instead of letting your daughter make decisions and be free to be who they are and do essentially what they want. As long as they're good human beings, that's literally all you should be asking of your children, is to be good human beings and be productive in society.
And I think that's huge, right? Wanting your daughter to be better than you were, right? I think that that's often heard. Well, I want you to be better than I was. I want you to do this better than I was, right? But not realizing the immense pressure that that's putting on a person. And oftentimes, I think moms are the first person to break their daughter's heart. And I think that that's not often realized or talked about enough.
Yeah. And a question for you to ask yourself, too, as we get ready to close this episode down is, who defines what is better than me? Are you, as the parent, defining who your child is supposed to be? Or do you allow them to make the decision themselves? I think that that's very crucial and important, to look within yourself and kind of figure out what that answer is. You know the answer. We know the answer. But really take that time to yourself to be able to figure that out. Yeah. And so just to close out in this segment or episode today, we're going to do something a little different and really just end it with some outrageous moments that was like, be so for real, like, why is this happening to me today? And so, I mean, for me to start off, this is just letting you know how much we deal with, just like you deal with at home, is my daughter had the nerve to come home from school yesterday with a black eye. Do you think I got a call from the school? No. All because the nurse wasn't in.
Mm.
However, imagine my daughter coming home and then going back to school with a black eye and them assuming that it was me that did it. So I had to call them and tell them, be so for real. Why did you not call me and tell me when the door swung and hit my daughter in the face and created this black eye? So I just had to call them and tell them, document it, note it, talk with the teacher, and make sure it doesn't happen again where I'm not notified. Because imagine, as a black woman as well, if it was to be said that I'm the one who harmed my child and how much uproar would be caused. So they need to keep the same energy at the school that they do and would do with me as a parent. But again, they're so lucky that I'm a mental health therapist because I just channeled my inner bestie, my meditation, my woosah, and they live to see again another day in another episode of Mindfulish.
Yes, and guys, to close out really quick, I know this episode was heavy, but again, this was not to shame anyone's parenting style, anything like that. When we know better, we do better.
Exactly, and that's what we're here for. So,
yeah, drop some comments, questions, whatever in the chat. Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.